System Equilibrium and Disequilibrium Part 3b. This series of presentations consists of three parts. Part 1, the present model of energy. Part 2, motion and the reification of energy. Part 3, A and B, system equilibrium, disequilibrium. Part 3b, system equilibrium and disequilibrium. The conclusion of Part 3a was, it can be shown with examples that are demonstrable and repeatable that the position and motion of an object within a system is caused by the pressure, equilibrium, disequilibrium conditions of the system. In an attempt to understand the motion that is observed, the abstract concepts of force and energy have been created and reified. Many people have accepted this reification, which has resulted in paradigm locking and the person facing an unsolvable conundrum unless they reach the understanding that the paradigm does not match real-life observation and needs to be understood for what it is, just a concept. When you step back and just say what you actually observe, you will say that you witness motion and a system of components in balance or not in balance. Then you understand that force and energy are a paradigm you have been using that has imposed a way of interpreting what you observe. Witnessed motion indicates that system pressure changes are occurring. The system is classed as all the components that can affect the motion of one another. Motion is witnessed by our dielectrical-based nervous system, vision, hearing, smell, taste and touch. The term pressure is used. Equally, tension or stress could be used. Pressure will be used from this point, but please note it does not mean force divided by surface area. The position and motion of an object within a system is caused by the pressure, equilibrium, disequilibrium conditions of the system. The water wheel spins, motion, when the equilibrium is being disturbed or re-established. What kind of pressure conditions can affect the equilibrium or disequilibrium of a system? A pressure disequilibrium resulting in observed motion. System in equilibrium or a steady level of disequilibrium. Disturbance, sensed by vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch. Increase in the motion of the system or system components is observed. System in disequilibrium or a greater level of disequilibrium. No further disturbance, sensed by vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch. Decrease in the motion of the system or system components is observed. System in equilibrium or a steady level of disequilibrium. Disturbance, sensed by vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch. Increase in the motion of the system or system components is observed. System in disequilibrium or a greater level of disequilibrium. No further disturbance, sensed by vision, hearing, smell, taste, touch. Decrease in the motion of the system or system components is observed. A pressure disequilibrium resulting in observed motion. A pressure disequilibrium resulting in observed motion. It is pressure disequilibrium. Reify it how you want. Charge, negative, positive, potential difference, etc. You observe and sense the motion caused by a pressure disequilibrium. If you go near the Tesla coil, you will witness yourself in motion. A pressure disequilibrium resulting in observed motion. It is pressure disequilibrium. Reify it how you want. Magnetism, north, south, Gauss, Teslas, etc. You observe or sense the motion caused by a pressure disequilibrium. The person is attempting to make the two blue ends of the magnets touch. What about chemicals and chemical reactions? Chemicals are an interesting situation. The atomic structure model is based on unproven descriptions. The existence of the electron particle has never been proven and certainly hasn't been proven to be the cause of an effect by the application of the scientific method. But some people will say that the experiment J.J. Thomson did with cathode rays proves the existence of negatively electrically charged particles termed electrons. We shall examine the claim. The assumption is that electron particles exist and they are negatively electrically charged. You cannot be shown an electron and no one can explain what negative electrical charge is without saying it is when there are a certain number of negatively charged electrons in a specific location. You are told that the hot metal cathode is assumed to be negatively charged because it is assumed to have more assumed negatively charged electron particles in it compared to assumed positively charged particles. You are told that the blue ray seen on the white screen with a phosphor coating you are observing is seen when the assumed negatively charged electrons leave the assumed negatively electrically charged hot metal cathode and interact with the phosphor-coated screen. The glowing blue screen in the tube proves that assumed negatively electrically charged electron particles exist. This is a story and a description. This does not prove that negatively electrically charged electron particles exist. The present models of atomic structure, chemical bonding and chemical reactions are based on this observation being proof for the existence of electrons. Another description, to illustrate that descriptions are not proof. The blue glow is caused by the interaction of tiny unicorns with the screen. The sharp tip of the unicorn's horns interacts with the phosphor coating of the screen, causing it to glow blue. A unicorn's horn is strongly negatively charged. When a certain voltage is achieved, the hot cathode is so full of excited unicorns that they stream out. It's a lovely description, and I can't actually prove a word of it. Unicorns and electrons, whichever you want to believe in, it's just a story. What is causing the white phosphor screen to glow? I am observing an effect. The scientific method shall be applied. 1. Observe a natural phenomenon, effect. Lightning, I think that may be acceptable. 2. Independent variable, voltage, potential electric difference, although I don't actually know what that is, between two objects. 3. Dependent variable, observed lightning. I can only manipulate the materials used, metals and gas in the Crookes tube, and the voltage. So, voltage, potential electrical difference, would be the cause of the effect, lightning. Application of the scientific method cannot prove that negatively electrically charged electron particles exist. What about a logical antecedent relationship, an if-then relationship? Is that possible? To claim an antecedent, consequent relationship in the natural and physical world, both the antecedent and consequent must be first proven to exist. If not, then the relationship is but a just-so story. For the assumed relationship, if negatively electrically charged electron particles then lightning, cathode weighs. A negatively electrically charged electron particle, the antecedent, has never been shown to exist, so an antecedent, consequent relationship cannot be claimed. The present models of atomic and nuclear radiation are not correct. Nuclear radiation includes beta radiation that we are told is a stream of electrons. This by association is obviously also not correct. A whole new understanding is required that is based on what can actually be proved and not stories. It is acceptable to state when a certain thing cannot be proven. What can truthfully be said about chemicals? Don't ask me what a chemical actually is, because I don't know. Humans take chemicals they find and with their doing will cause change directly or by the extension of their will to form new chemical substances. These new chemical substances, under specific conditions, undergo change into chemical substances that will not undergo further change under the same specific conditions. Let us see an example of this. Iron oxide compound in rock. The element iron is in a state of natural equilibrium. Blast furnace. Human-caused change. The element iron metal is in an unnatural state of disequilibrium. Human stops causing change. Iron oxide reformed. The element iron is back in a state of natural equilibrium. The above example. Iron metal is not extracted from the earth. Iron is mined in the form of a compound such as iron oxide. Under non-human manipulated conditions, the natural state of iron is as part of a compound. Humans can cause change, witnessed as motion, and produce iron metal. The iron is no longer in its natural state. How do we know this? Because when you leave the iron metal, it spontaneously reacts with oxygen gas and reforms iron oxide, the state it was in before humans caused change and motion. This example indicates that when an external agent, such as a human, causes change directly or by the extension of their will to form new chemical substances, the chemicals of the new substance are in disequilibrium. When the external agent stops causing change, then chemical change will happen as progression towards equilibrium occurs. Iron oxide compound in rock. The element iron is in a state of natural equilibrium. Blast furnace. Human-caused change. The element iron metal is in an unnatural state of disequilibrium. Human stops causing change. iron oxide reformed, the element iron is back in a state of natural equilibrium. It is pressure disequilibrium, reify it how you want, chemicals bonds, which involve electrons, energy, etc. You observe or sense the motion caused by a pressure disequilibrium. Another example is the chemical triethyl borane, also called triethyl boron. This compound does not exist in nature. An external agent, humans, cause change and combine chemicals into a state of disequilibrium. The autoignition point of triethyl borane is less than 21 degrees centigrade. At room temperature, the compound will spontaneously ignite without an external spark or flame. When humans stop causing change and TEB is exposed to non-human imposed conditions, the triethyl borane spontaneously reacts with oxygen and the chemicals will proceed back towards equilibrium, their natural state. A forming pressure differential resulting in system disequilibrium may be sensed as motion of one or more components of the system. Discharge of the pressure differential results in re-establishment of system equilibrium may be sensed as motion of one or more components of the system. This can be represented pictorially as follows. This leads to a question: what is causing these pressure differentials? Living organisms can cause a change in their surroundings. We witness this change as motion, a change in the shape, size, position, velocity, speed, acceleration, deceleration of objects. Is it just living organisms, or things that were once living, that can cause change and motion? What about non-living inanimate objects? Can non-living inanimate objects cause a change in their surroundings? Can sand itself cause change, or is change imposed on sand according to pressure conditions and changes in it that the rock is subject to? Can water itself cause change, or is change imposed on water according to pressure conditions and changes in it that the water is subject to? Can air itself cause change, or is change imposed on air according to pressure conditions and changes in it that the air is subject to? Living organisms can cause change directly or extend the range of their ability to cause change by using inanimate objects. Example 1. There is a cup on the table that I cannot reach with my arm. I pick up a long metal rod to reach the cup and move it. The metal rod cannot move the cup by itself. I caused the cup to move, motion, by using the rod as an extension. No me, then no motion of the cup. Example 2. There is a tennis ball on the table. I pick up a book and throw it at the ball. The ball moves and rolls off the table. The book cannot move the ball by itself. I caused the ball to move, motion, by using the book as an extension. No me, then no motion of the cup. Living organisms use a number of tools, devices and processes to extend the range of their ability to cause change by using inanimate objects. Living organisms, or humans, make and deploy so-called magnetic, electric and electromagnetic devices. Human being, living organism, device, change, observed motion. No human, living organism, no device, no change, no observed motion. Devices, etc. are but an extension of the range of the ability of humans to cause change. The picture below shows water in motion. The water does not have the ability to set itself in motion. The water does not have the ability to cause a pressure differential in itself or another component in the system. This is a crucial difference between water, an inanimate object, and a living organism. A living organism has the ability to cause a pressure differential or use an inanimate object as an extension to cause a pressure differential. Living organisms have the potential to cause a pressure differential. Living organisms can realise this potential to cause a pressure differential. The effect of potential being realised is a pressure differential resulting in change and witnessed motion. Is a living organism a logical antecedent for change and observed motion? Before we discuss the above statement, the term logical antecedent must be presented. An antecedent is the first half of a hypothetical proposition, whenever the if clause precedes the then clause. An implication consists of a pair of sentences separated by the operator and enclosed in parentheses. For example, the implication of P and Q is P, therefore Q. The sentence to the left of the operator in an implication is called the antecedent, and the sentence to the right is called the consequent. For example, in the implication, P therefore Q, P is the antecedent and Q is the consequent. The truth value of an implication is false if and only if its antecedent is true and its consequent is false. Otherwise, the truth value is true. We are all familiar with the statement, containment is required for gas pressure. Any demonstration that can be done in front of you, or that you or any other person can do and repeat, proves that for gas pressure containment is required. Containment is the logical antecedent of gas pressure. The air that we breathe is at pressure, thus the air that we breathe is contained. Logically we know this, even though we have not yet experienced the container. This example will be used in the following discussion. Is a living organism a logical antecedent for change and observed motion? You can no doubt think of hundreds, dare I say thousands, of observations that can be done in front of you, or that you or any other person can repeat, that show the following. A living organism, or as an extension of the will of a living organism, causes change and motion in the systems and surroundings. Just as containment is the logical antecedent for gas pressure, a living organism, or the extension of the will of a living organism, is the logical antecedent for change and observed motion. A living organism, or the extension of the will of a living organism, is the logical antecedent for change and observed motion. What is a living organism? What is life? In a mistaken attempt to answer this question, a person would A. Start making up descriptions, concepts and reifying. B. Start taking measurements as if they could lead to an answer. Can a person mistakenly believe they can work out what life is by concepts and measurements? Really? We know what that would lead to. Is life the ability to cause change? Is the definition of a living organism, or life, the ability to cause change? What is the difference between an inanimate substance and living organisms made of inanimate substances? Is the difference between living organisms and inanimate objects will? Such interesting questions and a lot more discussion required. How does one define will? I honestly do not know without using other similar words which lead to the same situation, unable to define it. Perhaps another term for will is doing. Living organisms do. Living organisms grow, move, reproduce, etc. They do. Living organisms do, without the influence of an external agent. Water, sand and air only do, move, etc., when acted upon by an external agent. I have realised that at this point I am just stating the obvious. This topic requires its own separate video, so this subject will not be dwelt upon any further. It can be observed that living organisms do, and that doing causes system disequilibrium witnessed as change and observed motion. Application of the scientific method. Observe natural phenomenon, falling tree. Is the elephant, a living organism, the cause of the effect being observed? Obviously. The scientific method is not really needed to determine the cause in this situation. Observed natural phenomenon. Light. Is the human, a living organism, the cause of the effect being observed? Obviously. No human, no torch, no light in my eyes. Living organisms and the extension of their will or doing is the cause of these effects. How does radioactivity fit in? As previously discussed, the radioactivity paradigm is in question and needs to be fully explored, which can't be covered in this video. How does entropy fit in? In the present paradigm, entropy is the measure of a system's thermal energy per unit temperature that is unavailable for doing useful work. Because work is obtained from ordered molecular motion, the amount of entropy is also a measure of the molecular disorder or randomness of a system. Simply put, a system gradually gets more disordered and loses the ability to cause change. Does living organisms having the potential to cause a pressure differential match with the real-life observation that a system gradually gets more disordered and loses the ability to do work? A system that can cause no change, do no work, is said to have a high entropy. A system that can cause change, do work, is said to have a low entropy. Examining the situation shown below, Stage 1, the system has high entropy. Its ability to cause change is limited. Stage 2, The entropy of the system has decreased. The living organism has caused the system to become more ordered. A pressure differential now exists and the system has the ability to cause change and motion. Stage 3. The system once again has high entropy. Its ability to cause change is limited. As can be observed, the doing will of the living organism affects the entropy of a system. The actions of living organisms can increase in a system's ability to cause change and motion. This results in a pressure differential, which then causes change in the system witnessed as motion as the pressure differential is realised and discharged. What is the cause of entropy? Living organisms. 1. Living organism, human, not causing change or motion, system in equilibrium. 2. Living organism starts waving arms around wildly, causing pressure disequilibrium and observed motion. The balloons and air are in motion. The system is in disequilibrium compared to its previous state and the entropy has decreased. The system now has a greater ability to cause change and motion. 3. Living organism stops waving arms around wildly. Witnessed motion decreases and entropy increases as the original equilibrium of the system is re-established. Predictable, observable and repeatable. How do the laws of thermodynamics fit in? The first law of thermodynamics, or the law of conservation of energy. The change in a system's internal energy is equal to the difference between heat, energy, added to the system from its surroundings and work done by the system on its surroundings. Energy, in physics, the capacity for doing work. It may exist in potential, kinetic, thermal, electrical, chemical, nuclear or other various forms. There are, moreover, heat and work, i.e., energy in the process of transfer from one body to another. After it has been transferred, energy is always designated according to its nature. Hence, heat transferred may become thermal energy, while work done may manifest itself in the form of mechanical energy. What energy? As previously presented, in the present energy model, energy cannot be proven to exist by the application of the scientific method, and energy is not the logical antecedent to work and motion. Energy is only a conceptual abstraction and generated through mathematics. Until the existence of energy can be proven, the first law of thermodynamics is not a law. The same applies to the so-called law of gravity. It is not a law. The second law of thermodynamics. Heat does not flow spontaneously from a colder region to a hotter region, or equivalently, heat at a given temperature cannot be converted entirely into work. Consequently, the entropy of a closed system, or heat energy per unit temperature, increases over time towards some maximum value. Thus, all closed systems tend towards an equilibrium state in which entropy is at a maximum and no energy is available to do useful work. Again, what energy? Until the existence of energy can be proven to exist, the second law of thermodynamics is not a law. The term heat must also be defined. Heat, energy that is transferred from one body to another as a result of a difference in temperature. If two bodies at different temperatures are brought together, energy is transferred, i.e. heat flows, from the hotter body to the colder. The effect of this transfer of energy usually, but not always, is an increase in the temperature of the colder body and a decrease in the temperature of the hotter body. Once again, what energy? Until the existence of energy can be proven to exist, then the concept of heat is just that, a concept. Temperature is not a measurement of heat, it is a measure of particle motion. Until the existence of energy can be proven, the second law of thermodynamics is not a law, but like gravity, people will keep talking about it and using it as a law. Natural law. A natural law is a description of what is always observed or happens. When a pressure system disequilibrium occurs due to the action of a living organism, then change and motion will happen and be witnessed. When the living organism ceases its action on the system, change and motion will occur as system equilibrium is re-established. This always happens, every single time. A natural law. System disequilibrium returns to system equilibrium, and entropy increases when a living organism ceases causing change and motion. Summary. Stating what is obvious and observable. Living organisms have the potential to do. In doing, the living organism causes a pressure system disequilibrium that is witnessed by change and motion of one or more components of the system. When doing of the living organism is ceased, discharge of the pressure differential results in re-establishment of system equilibrium, witnessed by change and motion of one or more components of the system. This is the observable and demonstrable nature of our reality. You can apply this to understand the motion occurring around you and how and why it is happening. If you use this as a template for exploration, you can't go far wrong. If you deviate from this path, be cautious not to get trapped in your own paradigm. Even though the below diagrammatic representation of the nature of our reality is predictable, observable and demonstrable, nothing will change. 1. People will talk about imaginary concepts such as energy and force and use equations to reify these concepts. 2. People will continue in their paradigm and continue to endlessly chase their tails. 3. People will think that measuring things will give them answers to why questions. Yes, there are many, many questions. Why do living organisms have this potential to do? What is this potential to do? Why does doing cause system disequilibrium and witnessed change and motion? How does doing cause system disequilibrium and witnessed change and motion? Why does ceasing doing result in the re-establishment of system equilibrium and witnessed change and motion? How does ceasing doing result in the re-establishment of system equilibrium and witnessed change and motion? The question is, in a bid to answer these questions, will you start making up descriptions and concepts and attempt to reify them into existence with the aid of mathematics and language? What about the Earth system? If living organisms have this potential to do, then what about the weather and tides? Obviously, water and air are inanimate and don't do, but must be acted upon by an external agent. The Earth system is contained. Containment is required for gas pressure. So within the Earth system, what is causing or one of the causes of the weather and tides? What external agent or agents are acting upon the waters and air? Most would agree that the sun is acting upon the waters and air. The sun causes change and motion and decreases the entropy of the Earth system. Is the sun a device? An extension of the doing, will of a designer of the Earth system? What about the moon? A sealed terrarium, still going after a decade. If the Earth system is a device that is an extension of a doing will, then what are the sun and moon? I don't know what the sun and moon are, whether they are physical entities or where they are relative to me. The sun, whatever you wish to reify it as, is a cause of change and motion. The sun decreases the entropy of the Earth system. What would the Earth system be like with no sun? What would the temperature be? Would every substance be a solid? Without the sun, would relative density disequilibrium be relevant? Is the moon a cause of change and motion? Does the moon increase or decrease the entropy of the Earth system? Are the sun and moon devices intelligently designed by a doing will and in their specific positions to cause change and motion, which they most definitely do? The sun and moon appear to behave in a clockwork-like fashion, like they are set on automatic, much like the controls of a greenhouse. These fascinating possibilities are interesting to ponder and require more thought. Observable, predictable and demonstrable. A. The system is in equilibrium or at a level of equilibrium. B. The man with the doing will hits the granite rock with a sledgehammer. C. The granite rock breaks and a small block of granite splits off from the bedrock. D. The man with the doing will moves the small granite block away from the bedrock. The small granite block is in relative density disequilibrium. The doing will of the man has resulted in system disequilibrium. The entropy of the system has decreased. It takes the doing will of the man to put the small granite block into its new position and keep it in that position, since the small granite block cannot move into that position or stay at that position by itself. E. The man lets go of the small granite block, no longer being held disequilibrium. system equilibrium is re-established as the small granite block moves towards the position it was moved from. Obviously, the small granite block cannot stay in the air because the man is no longer holding it there. The rate of acceleration, followed by deacceleration, depends upon the relative density disequilibrium between the small block of granite and the medium of air. The small granite block collides with the granite bedrock and stops moving. The entropy of the system has decreased. A doing will causing system disequilibrium witnessed as change and motion. Discontinuation of a doing will resulting in the re-establishment of system equilibrium witnessed as change and motion. No forces and no energy. You can measure whatever you like, but you are only measuring motion, only ever motion. If you start making up concepts, applying mathematics and reifying, you will indeed come up with the imaginary term force. Trapped within your force paradigm, you will have to conclude that there must be a downward force. It is inevitable, even though you will never be able to prove this downward force that you have created. Now you are trapped in your own mental construct. Equilibrium, motion, disequilibrium, motion, equilibrium. This series of videos has shown 1. The models of present-day physics have led to the reification of observable and measurable motion into the abstract concepts of energy and force. Utilization of these concepts has unfortunately resulted in an individual becoming locked within their accepted paradigm and facing an unsolvable conundrum in which imaginary, unprovable forces must be conjured into existence to support the chosen paradigm. 2. Living organisms, or tools and devices utilized by them, observably and obviously cause change and motion, resulting in a pressure disequilibrium within the system and a decrease in entropy. 3. Discharge of the pressure disequilibrium results in change and motion, and re-establishment of the natural equilibrium of the system and an increase in entropy. Where now? May I endorse the need for patience and not jumping out of the frying pan and into the fire. It was only a few years ago that it was understood that many of our understandings based on science aren't quite as watertight as we were led to believe they were. It is now appreciated that the reification of concepts and mathematics can potentially lead to misleading and unproductive paradigms. We must proceed with caution, using observable reality, logic, and the scientific method as our guides. Yes, there are many questions, and we are so curious and fascinated, but we must be prepared to live with not having answers to questions rather than false ones. There is no shame in not knowing. We must spend more time with our families and friends rather than on the internet. My sincere thanks to all the people that continue to discuss and exchange ideas with me.